Hello, welcome to the Mindful Dose podcast. You're listening and watching another segment of Lunar Talks. It's been a really long time since I've been on the podcast for anything, and that is because on the day that Jupiter went direct in Cancer, which was March 11th, on the day that it went direct, I got an update that my house was now ready to close. And my house has been kind of just on pause in the sale since about November. And November is also a time where Jupiter went retrograde. So I thought that was really interesting, astrologically speaking. I had my house for sale and got an offer in October, but it was contingent on the sale of their house. So from November onwards, it's just been a waiting game on their end to resolve that sale. And then on the day that Jupiter went direct, I got the news that my house was ready to close. And so the ball was rolling. I'm in Aries rising, so the Cancer area of my chart represents home and private life. I thought that was an amazing manifestation of that transit. So, needless to say, since Jupiter went direct, I have just been nonstop going through every room in my house and decluttering, organizing, storing, packing, moving it into a storage, all the while working full time and being a mom and dad, managing a property, and the list goes on and on and on. So it's been pretty chaotic on my end, and it's only been in the last week that I've been able to sit down more than walk, or just like balance it. So thank you for being patient. Today's lunar talk is on the Libra full moon happening on April 1st. Okay, yes, so there's a Libra full moon happening on the East Coast on April 1st at 10:12 p.m. That's East Coast time. So for the West Coast people, that's a little earlier in the evening, same day. So I'm going to share my screen and show you guys the lunation. Okay. So here we are, and we have the sun here and the full moon there at 12 degrees Aries and 12 degrees Libra. And they are having a mediator in the conversation, and that would be Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer's got a lot to say. I got to tell you, it's very much a part of the loud conversation that the sky is having. So, it's pretty neat that now that it's in the direct motion, that in this lunation, Jupiter is kind of stepping in and pushing things forward because it's no longer retrograde. It's now just everything has kind of returned into regular motion, into the regular swing of things. So before we bring in Jupiter in the conversation, um, here in Aries, we have a bit going on over here with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. This has been the intensity of the conjunction has been lessening with Saturn moving further away. It's now at 5 degrees and Neptune's at 2 degrees. They're still pretty close. So the intensity of what is really the main key words for this conjunction is the disillusionment of reality. So we are seeing a lot of AI news coming up. I was recently listening to a conversation on the radio about the AI being used in weapon technology, such as for the need if because you need hold on. It's a little out of my scope of work, so please bear with me. But um, if let's say the internet is inaccessible for those who are operating drone weapons, then there's AI technology in those drone weapons to be there was a very good word that the person used, and there it was like to be basically let AI take over if a human operating the machine could not access it for any technical issue. So there's this conversation in the world happening with, weapons, Aries being a Mars ruled sign about action and fire. I don't want to say fighting because not every Aries is a fighter, but it has that fighter quality to it. Just interesting that Saturn Neptune is here, and these type of conversations are happening where it's like what are the limitations to letting a weapon dictate what to shoot, what to drop, how to participate in a war without a human consciousness behind it. It's crazy. So that was an interesting conversation I was listening to on the radio. I wish I took notes, but I was driving. And for me, in my experience lately in observing the world and also in my own life, the Saturn Neptune has been kind of coming forward in my awareness as more like military based. I don't have any personal planets in Aries, but you might. And if you do, then check in on like, it's not going to be related to, maybe it might not be related to war and weapons and AI technology, but it might be relating to yourself, your sense of identity. If you're like an Aries sun, um, it depends what you have going on there. So with that being said, I am doing natal chart readings, and I will link my schedule below for you to check out. So in this lunation, we have that Saturn Neptune conjunction. It's lessening, it's separating, which would indicate that we are not so caught up in the dream. Let's going back to the example of those self-automated weapons. We're working towards building a structure and protocol that is acceptable. And we're not getting so like, oh my God, this is such a great idea. We'll never lose. Like that's that Neptune kind of like, there's no way that this can go wrong. But Saturn's like, hold up, hold up, hold up. Before you release the trigger, let's run it through a series of tests. Let's make sure that this works and that it's foolproof. So how that manifests personally can feel like there's a lot of limitations and tests that's not letting you proceed, but just look at those limitations and tests as a way of affirming or reevaluating for the better, whatever your plan is, whatever your goal, whatever that inspired action is. So Aries is about that action, and whatever that may be for you, whatever actions feel like they're stalled or being tested over and over and over again, it's just taking you to a place of like this is a reality, not what you thought it was, not what you imagined it was. You're being pushed further into the reality that is real. Okay. We also have Chiron here, co-present. So there's a lot of healing involved. There's nothing else in the Libra sector. So I do feel that I feel like this illumination is highlighting the connection, the emotional connection that we have with other people, that we have with one another. And it's a lot more intimate. Like I wouldn't see this as like our connection to like a group, but more so like in our private one-on-one relationships. It's a bit of a challenge with these two planets in opposition. They're both making a square aspect to Jupiter. This red triangle, we call that a T-square. And that's when two planets are in opposition and they're both making a challenging aspect to Jupiter. But what I have been learning and getting used to is that squares and oppositions are, although uncomfortable and pressing, and push us when we just want to take a seat or take a break. That energy is helpful in our growth. So this lunation is an opportunity for us to feel that discomfort and feel like we're being pushed into a different part of our life, into a different part of our relationships, and really, really work with what we're forced. Like it forces our hand to be kinder, to be gentler, because we have so much going on in Aries. I feel like this lunation is also giving us a chance to just like take a break, take a drink some water for a minute and then jump back into the race. So it's a moment of reassessing all the energy we've spent, recuperate, and then jump back into the race. Before we continue talking, I want to pick a card for this lunation and see if anything resonates with what I just said or where we're gonna go. All right. So the card that we got is the Nine of Swords, and I'm using the Mystic Tarot deck. So the Nine of Swords, it's a card about too much noise, like too much noise in your mind. There's a lot going on mentally. Like you could be thinking too much about this plan or the structure right here in the Aries part of your chart. And the moon in an air sign is kind of saying like, hey, it's a little too much up here. There's a little too much going on up in the psyche. Take a break is what Jupiter's kind of saying. The Nine of Swords for the lunation, that's very interesting. What's popping out to me is the landscape looks very dry. It's all rock and dirt, and even the mountains look rocky with some ice cap. But this person is just in the middle of what seems like nowhere, and it looks like it's nighttime. It doesn't look like a really comfortable time. And so the Nine of Swords, one of the keywords that I have for the Nine of Swords and the Ten of Swords is anxiety, mental anxiety. I know that feeling very well. I know that there are several ways to turn down the noise, and a lot of that has to do with tapping into the other spheres of our energetic bodies. So for me, it was like running or doing a workout to just channel that energy elsewhere, make it a little easier to jump back into the mental sphere and really c process the noise, either process, filter, organize, whatever way feels good for you, because everybody's mental noise is a little different. Um, the Nine of Swords is just asking us to take an opportunity to give it time, because in this card it's dark out, so I would think it's nighttime. Nighttime is usually, in my experience, when the noise is the loudest because I'm not busy running an errand or going here or doing that. It's at nighttime when you're left to be with yourself that that noise suddenly increases. So with this lunation also happening at nighttime, tying in with Jupiter and Cancer, one of the ways that I can see um, us calming that noise is if you have a bathtub, like take a bath. Oof, I can't tell you how many times I've taken a bath and just have sat in it, read a book for like an hour, 2 hours. I finished a book in the bath. And that is still tapping into that mental energy, reading, like putting words into your mind, but it's not your words, it's not your story, and it's not your, it's not the noise coming from an overactive mind. It's coming from a story, a fiction story that would be beautiful. Um, but yeah, so we got the Nine of Swords, and so Mars, I'm going to take a look at Mars, which is the ruler of Aries. It's in Pisces. And then the ruler of the moon, Libra, is Venus. And Venus is at home. Venus is in Taurus, and she is approaching a square aspect to Aquarius. So we have another challenging aspect. Squares and oppositions are what push us to change for the better, even through discomfort. So the ruler of the moon is making a square aspect to Pluto. Pluto is making a sextile aspect to Saturn. And Mars is not making an aspect to anything, which I kind of like for this lunation. I mean, it kind of just tells me Mars is like in the conversation, but Mars is in the room, but doesn't have notes for the conversation that's being had. So Mars is the tough guy, but he's not putting up his fist to fight right now, which is good. It gives us a little less of tense energy to deal with. But I do want to highlight that Venus is approaching a square aspect to Pluto. Venus is at 2 degrees Taurus and Pluto's at 5 degrees Aquarius. And when Venus makes it to 5 degrees, it'll be exactly square Pluto. So when it is approaching an exact is when energies are building up. So with Venus approaching a square to Pluto, um, look into your relationships, your finances, and notice if there are any pressuring changes developing over this time until Venus will move away from 5 degrees. So at 6 degrees, when it starts to move away from the exact square to Pluto, is when things will kind of lessen. But at this lunation point, we're starting to feel a bit of pressure when it comes to our relationships and our finances. Pressure can be a good thing. I feel like it's the pressure to transform. And what I like, and I don't know how you're going to feel about it, but what I like is that this is the last Venus in Taurus era that will have Uranus also in the party. Since 2018, 2019, Uranus has been working its way through Taurus. So anytime Venus was in Taurus, the moon when it's exalted in Taurus was with Uranus. So Uranus was like not making those really great placements be as great. So while Uranus is still here, it's still causing Uranus like upheaval, which is like turning things sideways and making things different. Whereas like Taurus likes everything the same. It wants everything consistent. It expects consistency. And Uranus is like, no, 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 no. Let's do it different again. Again. Like the only thing constant is change is the Uranus motto. So with Nation having its final like Venus in conjunction with Uranus by sign, um, it's with Pluto tied. I feel that it's a great final way to review finances and relationships. And it's not final, but in this theme, in this realm, it's a great final way to set root into what you want and what you expect within those areas of your life. Okay, and that's the background behind the moon that's full. Um, okay, so then Pluto is not just only talking to Venus, Pluto is also talking to Saturn. So going back to us setting root and having this final like shift in our finances and relationships, Saturn, the one that's like we have to put this through the test, we have to make sure it's foolproof and etc., make sure everything is in order, is right there. 5 degrees Saturn, 5 degrees Pluto, Aquarius and Aries. Saturn is supporting the change. Saturn is supporting a new system. a new way of doing things, a new way of building relationships, and a new way of earning an income. So this donation has a lot of change and structure in the background. So it's almost like, well, this building is outdated. Let's knock it down and rebuild a new building for the same purpose, but let's add in a room right here. Let's do this over here and let's rebuild from the ground up. And that is all tying in with relationships and finances. For everyone's own chart, it'll be a little bit different because of what you may have in these zodiac signs, Aries, Libra, Aquarius, and Taurus. But generally, the general message is the same across the board. Um, if you want a natal chart reading with me, again, the link is below in the description. And yeah, this is exciting. I'm excited to set some intentions for this full moon of relating to finances and relationships because with this move, I'm finally moving to what feels like society. I have been in a rural part of upstate New York for many years, and I'm returning back to my hometown. And I'll get an opportunity to like nurture relationships. I've been pretty isolated with my son. We've had great many years here, but it's time that I reconnect to the community of people. And I also am changing careers. So thank you for tuning in. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know how this donation turns out for you. And yeah, stay in touch.